Hi, I'm Steffanie Rivers, and I want justice. The police officers involved showed reckless disregard. Hello and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on into the conversation. I am multicasting on several platforms. You might be watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. I'm broadcasting on several platforms. So thanks for joining me. If this is your first time joining, I know you're going to see something that you are going to like and want to share it. So I'm going to ask you to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you'll be the first to know. And if you are a subscriber, my subscriber list is growing. We want to thank you for that support. So come on into the conversation. The first week of August, which starts in a few hours, actually, the town of Kinley, North Carolina, will be without a police force. That's because the police chief and its 4 full-time patrol officers, they are quitting in protest. Now, what exactly are they protesting? Well, they don't like the new town manager. Her name is Justine Jones, and this is Justine Jones. They're protesting over her hiring or her management style, and they are quitting, resigning in protest. And she has only been on the job for a little more than a month, a little less than 2 months. And you might have heard about this. Mainstream media is focusing on the fact that there will be no law enforcement in this town of about 2,000 people. But we're going to dive a little deeper into the issue and address some of the other issues that nobody wants to address. So that's what we're talking about today. Now, first, the police chief, his name is Josh Gibson, and I'm going to show you a picture of Josh Gibson. I try to always share my screen and have everything set up, but sometimes it doesn't work like that. So here's a picture of Police Chief Josh Gibson on the right, and that's Miss Jones, Justine Jones, on the left. And essentially, Josh Gibson submitted his resignation, and then came the other 4 full-time cops and 2 county clerks who also, they're all white people, and in Kinley, North Carolina. Now, they all claim they're quitting because Jones has created a hostile work environment, but nobody is giving any specifics on what exactly they claim to be a hostile work environment. So they throw around all these accusations about the new town manager without actually offering evidence. So people who live in the area, they're saying that these white men, and I think there's 1 white woman on the police force, that these white men don't want to be under the supervision of a black woman, and that's what's really going on. That's what they're saying. So, secondly, the town has a few part-time cops right now. So they're not, the town of Kinley is not without police supervision or somebody minding the store. And who knows, maybe those part-time cops might become full-time cops to pick up, to fill in the gap. And even when those full-time cops are on the beat, it was the police chief and 4 full-time police officers and a few part-time people. Even when those full-time patrol officers were employed before they put in their resignation, I'm told that it was only one of them on duty at any given time. So it's not like they're missing out on a whole lot. They have 4 full-time cops. Let's say in a 24-hour shift, if everybody's working 8 hours, 8 times 4, 8 times 3 is 24. So that's giving the fourth person off a day, and then they rotate. So everybody's got at least a day or two off if you throw in those part-time people. So mainstream media would have you think that everybody's just going to be running amok. These 2,000 residents in Kinley, North Carolina, don't know how to control themselves, and it's just going to be crazy. But that's not the case. Plus, the Johnson County, is it Johnston? Johnston County Sheriff's Department that is over Kinley is in Johnston County, North Carolina. The Johnston County Sheriff Department, they have said that they're willing to pick up the slack. They know, okay, y'all dealing with some stuff over there in Kinley. So if anything goes down that really needs police supervision or police intervention, interaction, they said that they are willing to step in and handle what needs to be handled. So there's not really a lot going down with 2,000 residents. They probably all related, and I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm like, if it's 2,000 people, y'all probably know each other. Okay, so it's not like a whole bunch of strangers running around committing crimes against each other. So Kinley will be just fine, y'all. Kinley will be just fine. Now, the police chief posted to his Facebook page that he could no longer be a part of the hostile work environment at the town of Kinley. He said he'd been there for 20 years. It turns out he really only been there like 18 and a half. Maybe he was rounding up, you know how people do. Because I have coworkers who they'll say, yeah, I've been here for 10 years. And they started after I started, and I haven't been there but 9. I'm like, okay, how you been here for 10 and I only been here for 9 and I've been here longer than you? People just make up their own rules as they go. Anyway, so this police chief said that if Miss Jones leaves, then he might be willing to return. So that tells me that he is a passive aggressive type of a dude who is really wanting his way, but because they hired somebody that he doesn't approve of, and now he's trying to force their hand being the town council. If you've ever lived in a small town or a small municipality, it's, the town council is like the city council. And then, of course, the police department is as big as how many residents there are. And so that's why they only have 4 full-time people, because Kinley ain't that big. And I used to live in North Carolina, one county over. So I'm familiar with Johnston County. I lived in Goldsboro, North Carolina. That's in Wayne County, and that is next door. It's the adjacent county, one of the adjacent counties. So I was a newspaper reporter. In fact, I started my career in my reporting career. I graduated from Tennessee State University in Nashville, moved to Goldsboro because I was dating a guy who was in the Air Force at Seymour Johnson in Goldsboro. And so my first career job was at the Goldsboro News Argus. One of the articles, the stories that I covered was when the census comes out, you do census type articles. How big has the area grown? This, that, and the third. So I took on that responsibility of doing different articles that pertain to the growth of North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina. And one of the things I remember was Johnston County at the time had more outhouses. Johnston County had more people living in houses without indoor plumbing than any other county in the entire United States of America. Okay, so that's what was going on in Johnston County. They didn't even think it was important to have indoor plumbing at the time. So I can, that was 20 years ago, but apparently, people get used to doing things the way they do things. And so I would hope that they have, are not still the the county with the most outhouses. I would hope that they have progressed past that. But somebody got to be in last place, and maybe it's Kinley. At any rate, all I'm saying is I'm familiar with this and this area, and that's why I was drawn to this story. So I wouldn't be, going back to Josh Gibson, the police chief, and him trying to passive aggressively bully the town council into firing the person that they hired for town manager out of 30 people. There were 30 finalists, and this guy, 30 finalists, and they settled on Miss Justine Jones for a reason. Okay, apparently she's better than 30 other people who applied for the position based on her education and her experience and her skill set. And so yeah, she qualified and skilled, and she's a black woman, and some people just don't like that. They just don't like that. And so that is what a lot of people are saying is going on in Kinley, North Carolina. So I would think, though, if they valued the police chief's opinion the way they want him to, the way he wants them to, they would have asked him to be on the board, on the search committee. But apparently they didn't want him on the search committee, and I'm about to tell you why they didn't want him on the search committee. But here's what's going on with Jones, Miss Justine Jones. She has 16 years experience, and let me go ahead and I'm gonna just put that picture back up there. So that is, of course, Justine Jones on the left, and that is Josh Gibson, the police chief, soon to be former police chief of Kinley, North Carolina, on the right. And Miss Justine Jones is the new town manager. She's been there about 2 years. I'm sorry, 2 months. 2 months. She's been there about 2 months. She has 16 years experience in municipal administration. She's worked in Minnesota. She's worked in South Carolina. She worked in Virginia. She worked in North Carolina, and most recently in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And how do I know? Because I called down there and talked to her. I just called and said, hey, can you come on and talk to us about why these people don't like you and what's going on? And she said that she would be willing to come on my show and speak with me, but she's only going to do it after the resignations are finalized. So when these people walk out the door, she's going to walk onto my door step set. And so we'll talk about it, because she doesn't want, for anything that she says to be misconstrued and be held against her in any way. And I certainly understand that. So we're going to schedule her to come on the show. And when she does, you will be the first to know. So the people who are resigning are talking about how Jones sued a previous employer for gender and racial discrimination, and then she dropped the lawsuit. The town of Kinley either knew about the lawsuits or they had an opportunity to know about the lawsuit. I'm pretty sure that they knew about the lawsuit because of what they have already gone through with a previous lawsuit that I'm about to tell you about that involved Josh Gibson, the almost former police chief. Just trying to see what. So if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. So what happened to the predecessor, Justine Jones's predecessor, the former town manager? What was up? Why did they need to go looking? You know how when you are dating somebody or about to date somebody, and they're like, oh, I want you to, I want to be me and you. And you're like, okay, what happened to the last person who was you and that person? Like, what happened to them? Why y'all break up? That's very important to know why there's a vacancy. It's important to know. Okay, so I'm about to tell you what happened in Kinley, North Carolina. Well, the town of Kinley and the former town manager, his name is Michael Douglas. Now, not that Michael Douglas, the actor, is another dude named Michael Douglas. He was the town manager in Kinley, North Carolina. Now, the Michael Douglas who was the town manager essentially he was charged with sexual assault, and that's why. And then after about a year after that, because I guess his contract renewal was like in July, and I don't know if it was about a year every year, but at any rate, he was charged with sexual assault, and maybe about 6 or 7 months later, when his contract came up, they opted to not renew Michael Douglas, the town manager's contract. Now, here's what went down according to reports, allegedly. Okay, so the town manager, Michael Douglas, went over to someone's house, a woman's house, and you can look all this up, but essentially, he went into the house asking for the woman. Her sister was there visiting. Her sister says she's in the shower. So so she went and told her sister, "Hey sis, homeboy, I'm sorry. Hey sis, Mr. Douglas is out here wanting to talk to you about something." So instead of him coming in and sitting down like a responsible, courteous human being, he goes to the woman's bathroom and screams in, "Hey, I need to talk to you," while she in the shower. Come on now, you don't know me like that. So anyway, she says she comes out in her robe because he's like, well, "What's the problem? What do you need to talk to me about?" So her sister, being the witness, witnessed Michael Douglas, the town manager, former town manager of Kinley, start to grope her sister, started to grope the woman who was in the robe, who he came to see. And he said stuff like, "Why is your sister not letting me hit it?" Stuff like that, while he was in an official capacity, because he claimed he was there to talk to her about city, county, town business. Okay, so then she said, the woman who later sued the town of Kinley said that Michael Douglas, the manager, she had to like tussle with him to get him out the door. So then the next day, when this woman tried to go make a police report at the police department of Kinley, where Josh Gibson is the police chief, Chief Gibson told the woman, "You just need to let this go. You don't need to worry about this. Just let it go. Move on." And so he would not allow her to submit a police report. Now, this is allegedly, this is what the woman said. So when she went to somebody else in the police department to try to get them to do the police report and submit it, again, Josh Gibson, the police chief, allegedly stopped that person from submitting the police report. So the woman then waited until the next town council meeting, and went before the town council and was like, "This is what happened. I tried to submit a report, and twice I was denied my right to submit a report." And so when the town council got involved, now the woman, according to the reports, she thought the town council took too long to act on it, because she felt like they should have fired the Douglas, the manager, right away, but they didn't. And you have to give people due process on stuff, because then they can come back and say you just took somebody's word for it without any evidence. But then once the town council turned it over to the district attorney's office, the DA, the county DA, started doing some research, and then that's when they filed charges against the town manager, with charging him with sexual assault. And the woman in turn sued the town because of all the trouble that she had to go through to even file a police report, because she alleges that the police chief, Josh Gibson, the one who claims that he is working in a hostile environment, wouldn't let the woman do what he was supposed to let her do, which is file a police report. And he's talking about somebody else creating a hostile environment. Can you believe that? So then the woman who filed the charges and sued the town of Kinley, she has since moved out of town, but not before she filed that lawsuit and got her money. I don't know how much it was, but home girl got the money and left town. And So that's probably why the town council is not too concerned about what Police Chief Josh Gibson is feeling right now, because he didn't do the right thing when he should have been doing the right thing. If he didn't want to see, the town manager is his supervisor, and so instead of him, trying to cover up for his then supervisor, he should have referred maybe the sheriff's department to do the investigation, somebody else to, so that it wouldn't seem like a conflict of interest for him to be investigating his own supervisor. But at any rate, that's what went down in Kinley before Miss Justine Jones got there. So there's no telling what protocol or what type of information that Miss Justine Jones is privy to, where she might have been trying to make some changes in how things are done. And maybe Josh Gibson didn't like that because he was a part of the changes that needed to be taking place. And so when people come out and they say things like, oh, it's a hostile work environment, or when they say things like, oh, my supervisor is this, that, and the third, you just can't take everybody's word for it. You have to do your own research. And so I did some research and found out that Josh Gibson created a hostile work environment allegedly for a woman who said she was sexually assaulted, and he would not allow her to file a police report. And so so now, since Josh Gibson was on the bandwagon of resignations, then he got his whole 4 police crew to resign as well. And so even though the former town manager is the one who was charged, the current police the whole police force allegedly showed favoritism towards his colleague and their supervisor at the time. So when he should have referred that to another police agency to do the investigation instead of just blocking this lady. So yeah, if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. So I spoke about this same thing last week, in that if you are trying to make a police report, or if the police come out, or you think that you've been somebody has committed a crime against you, and the officer assigned to the case will not make a charge or won't even take a police report, that does not have to be the end of it. You can go down to the police department yourself and you can make a report. So you can circumvent that person. You don't have to let them block you from your legal right to do whatever it is you're trying to do, because in the end, there are processes and protocol in place to do things, to do investigations, and it's your right. And so you have to know the law. You at least need to know the law 101 to even be walking the streets these days, because people will tell you any old kind of thing. They'll try to tell you, no, you can't do this, that, and the third, and you turn around and somebody else is doing this, that, and the third, and they ushering them through, but they told you couldn't. So you have to know the law before you start asking other people about the law. And so there are ways around people who don't want you to exercise your constitutional rights. And so it's kind of like when you're on your way, let's say to work, or you're trying to get somewhere, and that major thoroughfare that you normally go down is blocked because they doing construction. They don't cut the street off. Do you just go back home and say, oh, I couldn't make it? No, you go another route. You find your way around that roadblock, don't you? Because you really want to get to where you're going. It's the same thing. Just because the major thoroughfare, as the way you normally do things, is not accessible right at that moment, doesn't mean you can't do it. You just got to go the back street. Okay. So that's what's going on. So the bottom line is the tide is changing, people. For those who are used to being in charge, the tide is changing. For those who are used to just behaving any old kind of way and not being questioned, the tide is changing. And those of us those of y'all, because I've never been complacent, but people who have been complacent and allowed people to just tell them anything and we accept it. Oh, just because you are a law enforcement officer, you got to be right. Just because you are a doctor, you must know what you're talking about. Just because you are a pastor would never do that. You can't do that no more. You can't just take people at their word just because they got on a collar or a badge or they went to a certain school or something like that. You have to question folk because people will use that against you, and they have for centuries. And so the time is coming where the people who were the underdog, the people we are starting to take our rightful place. We're starting to know our worth, our power, our value, and you just can't tell us any old thing and then get away with it. So that's what's going on, I believe, in Kinley, North Carolina. There's a new town manager. I would say the first Black woman that they've had as in a supervisory position over them, and they just don't like that. Some people, I don't care how qualified, how skilled, how bona fide you are, how many degrees you got. I don't care. They just don't like it. They just don't like it, and that's their problem. That's just their problem. So that's what's up. So the whole police department resigning in Kinley, North Carolina, that could be a blessing in disguise. So that could be, if you just willfully gonna leave, then bye. So I support Miss Justine Jones, and I'm gonna have her on the show to and ask her some tough questions like what is really going on, and what was up with those other lawsuits, or the lawsuit that she filed, but those things, I'm sure she felt like she had a reason to do that. And why did she withdraw the lawsuit? Maybe she felt like she had a reason to do that. Maybe they paid her and she kept it moving. You just never know until you ask the questions, until you address some stuff. But in the meantime, they got some positions open, y'all, in the police department in Kinley, North Carolina. So before those that police chief and those people change their mind and try to come back because they realize, damn, I done messed up. I done walked away from my job and the money and the benefits. Before they realize what they did, y'all need to go on and apply now. Go on and apply. So to find out more, you know what I didn't do this whole time? I did not put up my CG. What we're talking about. White police chief resigns over Black woman manager. That's what we've been talking about. So if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. And to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thanks, and